One of the biggest problems with South Africa is the racial divide when it comes to the issue of voting. Ever since the end of apartheid, South Africa has seen the emergence of new liberal parties. Yet, despite this, the ANC has not really been challenged out of power. The only reason the ANC has even seen a decline is because many of its supporters just don't bother to vote anymore. Their voter turnout continues to dwindle every year. While many might believe that this is due to their frustration with the ANC, it's most likely due to many of their voters becoming complacent. When you investigate alternative parties outside the ANC, you have the far-left Economic Freedom Fighters, or EFF, the MK, and the Democratic Alliance, or DA. Of those three, only one party has broad support across racial lines in South Africa, the DA. Unlike the ANC, EFF, and MK, which are almost entirely black, the DA has support from all different ethnicities in South Africa. Yet despite this, only 14% of the DA voter base are black. In fact, even though the DA got about 20% of the vote last election, only 4% of black South Africans voted for them. This is even though by every metric you can measure, the DA has performed better than the ANC, EFF, and MK. So this leads to the question of why don't black voters support the DA? The reality of the situation is that while the DA is successful in the policies that it implements, it's the policies that it avoids that lead to its downfall among black voters. Primarily, the issue of land reform or expropriation without compensation.
Even though the white population only makes up 7.7% of the population. Such inequality has served to galvanize support for the EFF, which, according to Malema, is the fastest growing party in South Africa, garnering support from much of the country's black youth. Malema has been using Dubulibunu to market one of the EFF's core policies, that is, land expropriation. This article puts South Africa's land issue in perspective. With the population growing rapidly and migration still ongoing, the land issue has exploded. There are millions upon millions of people with nowhere to go in a country where everywhere you look, there are vast tracts of wide-open, white-owned land occupied by nothing but sheep and wandering guinea fowl.
It's well known that the DA is the only party that's explicitly against the confiscation of property without compensation. Their official policy is that they're against all forms of government seizures of private assets. They believe that this concept goes against the very idea of private property, a principle that's key to any law-based society. However, this principle is not universally shared by all the people of South Africa. The gap between white and black voters on this issue is massive. While almost no white voters agree with land confiscation, nearly 40% of black voters are in favor of it. And it's important to note that black and white voters view these policies through the context of race. When talking about this issue, it's understood that the properties that will be confiscated belong to white owners and will be given to black South Africans. Many black voters believe this rights the wrongs of apartheid by redistributing land that was quote-unquote stolen by white colonizers to the indigenous black South Africans who in their mind are the rightful owners. This also explains another issue that many black voters have with a party like the DA, the lack of anti-apartheid and anti-white rhetoric. The DA blames all the current failures of South Africa on the ruling ANC, which has been in power since the end of apartheid. Unlike the EFF and MK, that largely give the ANC a pass for all the crime, dysfunction, and decay that South Africa is going through under their watch, the DA holds them accountable for these failures. This, in the eye of many black South Africans, is viewed as giving the apartheid regime a pass. It's also an indication to them that the DA is a party for white citizens. While this is contrary to the reality of the situation, especially given the fact that there are black members of the DA, many black South Africans view it that way and cannot be convinced otherwise. This is why the country will inevitably head to a civil war. While the infrastructure and civil services in the country collapse, the resentment will continue to grow. Farm murders will continue to intensify as many among the black South Africans will view whites as the main or sole reason for all the problems in the country. And politicians from both the African National Congress and economic freedom fighters will continue to spread rhetoric that will further enhance this resentment. Genocidal calls for the killing of the Boers or Afrikaners will become increasingly mainstream and will likely expand to all whites. In fact, in many ways, it already refers to all whites right now. And the current South African government has no desire to prevent this racial tension from boiling over. This will give the current ruling party more distractions and time to continue looting the country. Many of them are already looting this country by the truckload right now, and every service or infrastructure that crumbles because of their looting is one more issue they can blame on apartheid and the white minority, and they will continue to get away with this until there is nothing left. Years of corruption from the ANC has made most of their voters cynical of any real possibility of improvement. Certain towns in South Africa look like fourth world cities, piles and piles of garbage, minimal functioning infrastructure, and tons of violent crime. People in these areas have no concept of what realistic improvement looks like. All they have is the resentment fed to them by ANC politicians against the white minority. And eventually it will turn to violence and civil war, because if you can't improve your life and all you've been told is that white people are holding you down, that will eventually manifest itself in violent backlash. This is the unfortunate direction that South Africa is heading towards, and this will be the case until there is a massive shift in the sentiment of the black voter base. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And as always, if you enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe,